Okay, let us start. In earlier class, in previous class, which topic we have discussed?
So we were seeing JDBC and MVC architecture. Like MVC was not done. You were showing a singleton class. You said that we will discuss further.
Okay. So we have just started that part, that few things on design pattern. So I'll discuss a very basic few design patterns. Then uh, I will give you some task on swing applications so that we can discuss MVC in detail. So in design pattern, we have only discussed this singleton pattern. Anything else? Abstract factory pattern or anything?
Yes, sir. That abstract factory pattern. Like yes, sir. You show that.
Okay. So that I have shown you the code that how to write abstract factory pattern.
So I don't remember much.
Okay, fine. Basically, if we talk about design pattern, then three types of design patterns are mainly used. So we have three different types of classes. So each and every class contains some design pattern. Now, the according to the name, you will understand that why this design pattern belongs to this class. So initially, we can classify the design patterns into three categories. One is creational pattern, another one is behavioral pattern, and structural pattern. Okay. So creational, behavioral, and structural. As the name suggests, so singleton design pattern is creational design pattern. Similarly, if we talk about abstract factory class, again, abstract factory class is basically creational design pattern. So in both of these cases, there are some other design patterns also in creational class, like builder pattern, prototype pattern. Okay, nowadays many more patterns are added in creational class. So what is abstract factory pattern? So in singleton design pattern, we know that for a class, only one object is permitted at a time. More than one object cannot be created. Similarly, in abstract factory pattern, we are creating a factory. Sometimes we say that it's an abstract factory, and using this abstract factory, we can objects using this factory method. Okay. I'm not writing the code from the very scratch. I have some code in my website, so I can give you Is it fine now? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
There was some network issue. I'm discussing one example I have written earlier. So this is abstract factory pattern. So I will start from the main method so that you can understand that why these things are being used. So this is abstract factory pattern. So if we create this main method, so in main method, say we have two different types of objects and obviously two different types of classes. One is shape and another class is this printer. Okay, so one class is shape, another class is printer. So in shape we have different subclasses like circle, square, rectangle, and in printer we have three different types of printer classes like paper printer, web printer, screen printer, like this. Okay, so we have two different types of classes. One is shape. So these are the examples of shape class and these are the examples of printer class. Now we want to design a factory. So in that factory, if we mention that what type of shape do you need, it will return you the corresponding factory type. So we are going to create an abstract factory. Okay. So one abstract factory is being created. Now create a specific type of factory. And if you know the specific type of factory, then you can ask for a specific type of object of a class. Okay. So how it works? So in this have defined one class. This is circle class. Okay, so circle shape, this one implements shape class. Sorry, implements shape interface. Similarly, we have another class, rectangle shape. It implements shape interface. And we have square shape, which also implements shape interface. So basically, this circle shape, rectangle shape, or square shape, these classes are implementing shape interface. So if they implement shape interface, then the undefined method in shape interface must be defined in that class. That's why in at the top you can see that in shape interface we have a method draw. Okay, so if we have a method draw, then this draw method needs to be defined in every classes. Otherwise, this needs to be declared as abstract. But we are going to design concrete classes. That's why these methods are to be defined within the classes. Mhm. So we have a shape interface and some classes are there which are implementing shape interface. Similarly, I have another set of problems. So here I have a printer interface and printer interface is being implemented by paper printer as well as screen printer and web printer. So three different classes are there. These classes are being used to implement specific type of printer. Okay. Now, so right now, what do we have? We have one set of classes based on shape, another set of classes based on printer. Okay. Now, the next step is you have to define a factory. So we are going to define a factory here. So this abstract factory contains methods get printer or get shape. So we are going to design an abstract factory which receives some parameter and based on that it decides that whether it will generate a printer object or it will generate a shape object. Okay, so that's why this abstract factory class is being defined having two methods, get printer and get shape. So get printer will return any kind of printer. Similarly, get shape will return any type of shape. Okay. Now the next step is you have to define individual factory classes. So shape factory is there. Okay. So in this example, this is the class shape factory, and we have another class printer factory. So the purpose of this factory is, so still now what do we have? Just to recap, that we have three different types of printer classes. We have three different types of shape classes. Okay. So if we have three different types of shape class and three different types of printer class, then for printer as well as for shape, we need two different factory. In a factory where shapes will be prepared, in the same factory, probably the print will not be done. So printer factory and shape factory, these factories are to be defined separately. That's why here we are defining two factories. One is shape factory and another one is printer factory. Okay. Now what is the purpose of this printer factory and shape factory? So from this printer factory or shape factory, say it's a printer factory. So in get printer method, you have to mention the type of the printer for which you want to create the object. Okay. So type of the printer needs to be passed in that message. Similarly, in case of shape factory, type of the shapes are to be sent as a parameter. So based on that, it will decide that what type of shape or what kind of printer needs to be created. Okay. So if shape type is equals with, as in this example here, if shape type is equals with circle, so if we pass that using shape factory, you have I think I was disconnected for a little bit. Okay. So we have two different types of factory, shape factory and printer factory. And in shape factory, if this get shape method is being called, then the shape type is being sent as parameter in this method. So based on shape type, it will decide whether it will create circle shape, rectangle shape, or square shape. Okay. So that is being designed here. So it decides whether this class requires circle object or rectangle object or square object. Similarly, in case of printer factory, it will ask for web printer, then it will ask for uh, web printer, screen printer, and something was there. Okay, web printer, screen printer, and paper printer. So three different types of printer classes are there. So here we are instantiating it. So this is the basic of abstract factory pattern. So from the at the very beginning, we are talking to factory producer. Now factory producer get dot get factory will return you the corresponding factory type. So here, if we pass this parameter shape, then it will create an interface reference shape. If the parameter type is instead of shape, say it's a printer, then it will create an object for printer. Is it clear to you that why abstract factory is needed and how it is used?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Uh, I'm not going to write this code again. So this is the basic concept of abstract factory pattern. We have discussed singleton pattern earlier. Now let me go to iterative pattern. Okay, can you give me some example before moving to this iterative pattern? Can you give me some example where factory patterns are needed? Take the time for thinking and give me the answer. What do you feel that why this abstract factory pattern is needed? Is there any use or not? No answer.
Certain programs like where we manage different type of bank accounts, we can use it there.
Okay, so we can create a bank account factory. So we can pass account type to the method like create object or create account. Then based on the account type, it will create a new object. So if I want to open savings account, then for me a savings account object will be created. And if you want to open your salary account, then for you a salary account object will be created. Okay, so this is an example where we need to define or use this factory class. So abstract factory pattern is required. Okay, according to your syllabus, this term is already mentioned. So this is basically iterator pattern. Iterator pattern generally we use in existing data structures like linked list, stack, queue. In those cases, we have this concept. So what is iterator pattern? So iterator pattern is basically a technique by which you can fetch the data efficiently. So you can fetch the data efficiently using iterator pattern. So how is it possible? So in case of collection framework, can you remember that there are some methods like has next. Has next is a common method which is present in many data structures and which is hugely used. So the iterator design patterns are used in collection framework. Now I'm coming to our example, that how it works and why it's needed. So if we start from main, if we start from this main, so at the very beginning within this main method, we have created word BB. Okay, so this one, in this main method, first we are creating a word bag. Now, in this word bag, if we have some data, then we will iterate over this data. Okay, so how it will work? So this is a for loop. So for each element, like in case of for loop, what what are the different types of for loop in Java programming language? What are the different types of data types in Java programming language. How many primitive data types are there? Are you active here?
Yes, sir.
How many primitive data types are there in Java?
So like many boolean, integer, short, byte, then float, double, long.
In case of collection framework, we have some data structure. In case of collection framework, we have discussed some data structures.
Yes,
Array
sir.
list, vector, set,
And linked list.
tree set, hash set, map, tree map. So many things are there. Okay. Now, in this example, here I'm running a for loop for this one is for loop. Okay. So there are different types of for loops also in Java programming language. Okay. Now, here we are creating an iterator for each and every element. So get iterator. So back dot get iterator. So get iterator is a method in back. So back means this word back. Okay. Now, so basically here, if we have a collection data like array or vector, then we can iterate over the array or we can iterate over the vector. So how many times we have to run it until we reach at end of the list? So in this way, it will iterate. So we have different types of for loop. So here this for loop is being used. So if iterator this one dot get instance, just a minute, 1, 2, okay, okay, fine. There is no error. So if we create a bag, then bag dot get iterator will return you the status. So how long you want to run this loop? So it will run for that. So how it is being implemented? So from main, first we are creating a word bag. So word bag class is created or sometimes it's provided. We are creating a word bag. Okay. So this word bag class, this class word bag, within this class, we have this another class, this one. So we have another class word iterator. So this word iterator implements iterator interface. So if it implements iterator interface, then we have to rewrite the has next method definition, because now the definition of the has next method will not work here. So how it will run? So this word iterator, it implements iterator interface. So it we are overriding these things like has next method which needs to be overridden. So we are overriding this method and it returns the status method. Just 1 minute. you do not get any interest, then it's very difficult for me to run the classes. Even if you do not show any interest, then I'm losing my interest. So I can just go through the syllabus, I can discuss very few topics. I don't know that whether this type of question will be given or not, because we do not expect this type of pattern related questions will be there. Only the basic things like in semester exam, you may expect some questions like how many design patterns are there, what are the different classes of design patterns, but they will not probably ask you anything on implementation like iterator pattern or factory pattern. No problem. Okay, just give me 2 minutes. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, give me 2 minutes. I will return in 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay, sir.
let us resume this one. Yeah. So here we are creating one class, word bag, one interface iterator. So in iterator, we are defining two methods. One is has next and next. So two methods are there. One is has next and
So,
another one.
what is this object, public object next?
Which one?
Again, that interface, the return type of next function, object.
So we know that object class is the topmost class in class level hierarchy. So we want to create this iterator for generic purpose. So if we want to generalize it, then for this iterator can be used on any kind of object in class level hierarchy. The topmost level is object. Okay, so that's why we are returning this return type is object. So any kind of data, any kind of class can be returned by this. So if we call this next method, so next object will be returned. Here in this example, we are creating this word bag. Okay, so word bag is a class. So we know that by default, every class inherits this object class. Can you remember? So any class inherits object class. This is the topmost class in class level hierarchy. We don't need to inherit this object class, but by default, the object class is inherited by every class. All the features of object class is inherited by every class. Okay, so word bag also inherits this object class. So when I'm going to use this iterator, then iterator dot has next. This one will return true or false. If next object is present, it will return true. If next object is not present, it will return false. And the next, this method next will return next object. Okay. Now in word bag class, we are going to implement it. So we are creating an iterator, word iterator, and it implements this iterator interface we have just created. Okay. Now, if we want to implement it, then this has next and next method. These two methods are to be defined because iterator is the interface name. So we need to define this method to create this word iterator as a concrete class. So we are creating this word iterator class. So we are defining it. So has next, in this method, we are returning Boolean value. So if index is less than word's length, this word's length, so words is an array. So if the index is less than word's length, then it's true. We have next element. If index is equals with word's length, then we have reached at the last position. So we don't have any next element. So has next will return false. So has next will return true if index is less than word's length. Otherwise, it will return false. So this next method is defined. Has next method is defined. Now, in next method, what we have to do?
So, shouldn't it be index less than word dot length minus one? So then, so suppose the last element is L, the index would be 3, but the words dot length will show 4. So 3 is less than 4. So even if we are at the last element, it will show has next is true.
Okay, let us check. Uh, Index, what is the value of index?
So initially it should be 0.
It should be 0. Okay. Now, if initially this value is 0, okay, let us just debug this on whether it's proper or not. Okay, just you have one doubt that whether it will be word's length minus 1 or not.
One more thing, sir. I
Hmm.
wanted to ask that this this word array, since it is of data type string, it might return string because string is also a class. If this array was integer, will it do auto boxing and return object of integer class?
This string.
Yes, sir. Instead of public string words, if it was public int words,
Hmm.
and we returned words index in like words of index plus plus, so will it return an integer value like an object of integer class?
Mm, you're talking about this one, this line.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Since so words of index plus plus is of data type string, the return type is object, so
Yeah.
we can return it. There is no
Hmm.
problem. If the data type was int, so will it perform auto boxing then return that integer, capital I integer object?
We have to return it accordingly. Auto boxing will be done here.
Okay, sir.
You have to do it. Okay. Okay. Now, if we have next, so if this object, current object, has next, so has next means this method will be called. If it's true, then it will return the next object from index plus plus, because the current index is stored in index variable or attribute. So next index plus plus will be returned from the words for next element. So on which object this next element, next method will be called, it will return the next object.
So it will return the current object, I guess.
Hello, Asif.